Vice President Kingsley.
Here.
President Sokolowski.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so first item on the agenda is some announcements. Wanted to let everyone know that Borough Council held an executive session prior to tonight's work session, and we talked legal matters at that executive session. Looking at public comment, did we receive any public comment related to the last council meeting or anything for this meeting that we need to speak about? No. Thank you. All right. So let's move on to the agenda item of presentations. So the first presentation this evening is I'd like to introduce the Worshipful Master of the Fritz Masonic Lodge, Ryan Bailey. If you don't mind coming to the podium, Ryan.
Whatever you're more comfortable
Yeah,
at.
if you can go to the microphone or the podium, whichever.
I'm fine wherever.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Congratulations on your Worshipful Master.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't know I was presenting anything.
No, just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. And
Okay, yeah, we're up right up the street at 801 Fayette Street. It's the Fritz Lodge, number 308, the Masonic Lodge. We are always looking for ways to become more involved with the community. So if there's anything that we can do to help you, I know the Pocket Park has been a great success with what the borough has done for Fritz and with Fritz. So, you know, we do like the car shows, and we're out there for things like the soapbox derby and you know, other random events. But yeah, if there's anything else we can ever do to help, you know, we'd love to be more involved. We have a few of the other past masters that came. These were guys that were in charge some a little bit ago and some more recently. I'm sure a lot of you know Glenn. He just served like a 3-year tour here. Glenn Quinn. Then we have George Gunning. The third was I don't know what year that was. 1997, a little before my time. And then Sheldon Simpson was also a few years back. Was a past master. There you go, 2000. So thank you very much for having us. I don't know if you have any questions for us.
Ryan, can you talk about the events where you bring the community into the lodge? Because you've hosted a number in the last few years.
Yeah, we've had events such where there'll be a speaker the last one we had was who was the yeah, Ned Hector gave a little history of some of the local events from back in the Civil War. We've had in the past we had the K-9 unit, and the K-9 unit will be here again in June. So on the third Tuesday, you know, before our meeting, there'll be a display by the K-9 unit. He'll bring the dog. Then he'll field questions. It's pretty interesting what he was able to do last time. We also have no, who's Jack? No, Jack Cole will be. He's going to be giving a presentation about the history of football in Conshohocken. I believe that's at our third Tuesday in September. So you know, we have some of those, and then we've had Betsy Ross in the past. We've Ben Franklin, but the two upcoming are the immediate set are the K-9 unit and the history of football in Conshohocken.
And those are free and open to the public?
Yeah, so our meetings start at 7:30, and those will usually start sometime around 6. We'll get, you know, especially with like the K-9 unit, it's more, as it gets closer, we'll get more definitive times, and then we can publish them. And Glenn updates our Facebook page pretty religiously, so he'll have that out there, and he can get that information to the borough.
Great. Thank you.
thank you.
Congratulations.
I think, thank you.
I think what I would say is Fritz Lodge is a gem in the borough that for many, many years, I think a lot of borough people didn't understand that. And what I appreciate is the partnership that we've had over the last 5 to 7 years with Fritz Lodge and really becoming part of the borough community. So I think you guys are really leading the way in that, and I appreciate that for the community. So thank you.
Just a little history, talk about our existence. We've been a staple, unfortunately a very quiet staple in the community. 1857 we were founded in Conshohocken. The building at 8th and Fayette was built in the early 1930s. We've been there ever since. So we've been around the borough a long time. It's unfortunate that we're not well known. People just know, oh, that's the Masonic building up there and don't know a lot about it. The mayor's been gracious enough to attend quite a few of our meetings, to open meetings we have. And it's a great pleasure. We love to see anybody from council or the borough come out. As Ryan said, we have the dog show coming up in June, and I'm going to throw him a curveball, but we'll have a barbecue with hot dogs for anybody who comes out from the public. It was a great success last time. We had a lot of residents attend and enjoyed that and asked a lot of questions. It's a wonderful show, and we try to, the master every year has his own agenda, and he always tries to do stuff to bring the community out with speakers and things like that. So we'd love to, have you come out and see the building sometime and come to some of that stuff and see what we're all about. As mentioned, Ryan's our new worshipful master this year. He's in charge of the lodge. So he's like you, Madam President, is in charge of the lodge, and some of us are the trustees, which are sort of council members who do the overall C of the lodge, but Ryan runs the day-to-day business and takes care of everything. And he's done a great job. We're happy to have him. We have some good members following him. So we hope to have a good success in the next few years.
Thank you, Shelley.
I have a question. What's the difference between a worship master and a grand master?
The Grand Master is the worshipful master of the state of Pennsylvania. And so he oversees, as Ryan oversees our lodge, he oversees all 700 lodges in Pennsylvania.
That was my uncle.
He was a Grand Master? Oh, really? Okay. What was the name?
Pierce? Wait a minute. Yes. Lawton Pierce?
Pierce? To look it up. So, any other questions?
Pierce.
Any other questions, council?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming in, and thank you for the partnership and the ongoing relationship that we'll have. And thank you for the community events.
Thank you for having us. And like I said, if there's any ideas that we can do more, collaborative stuff, we're happy to do it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda under presentations this evening is a proclamation. It will be Proclamation 2025-03, recognizing April as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month. So at this point, I would ask our senior council member, Anita Barton, to read the Safe Digging Month proclamation for us.
Designating April as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, whereas the month of April 2025 recognized as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, and the initiative sponsored by the Pennsylvania 811, a utility notification information center with over 50 years of continuous service to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and whereas Pennsylvania 811 received 1 million excavation notifications in 2024, over 3,000 construction projects in Coordinate, PA, and transmitted approximately 6 million notifications to their member facility owners and operators, allowing essential utility and construction crews to provide vital underground services and repair of critical infrastructure to communities throughout Pennsylvania, and whereas their mission is to prevent damage to underground facilities, to promote safety, provide an efficient and effective communications network among project owners, designers, excavators, and facility owners, and whereas when dialing 811 at least 3 business days before digging, a homeowner or a contractor is connected to a unique service that notifies the appropriate underground utility operators in the municipality in which the work will be performed, and whereas by notifying 811 of their intent to dig, the homeowner or contractor is knowingly helping to protect the underground utilities themselves, work crew, and their neighbors from any unsafe digging practices within their community. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Borough of Conshohocken, in support of the Pennsylvania Underground Utility Line Protection Law, PA Act 287 of 1974, as amended, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Pennsylvania Safe Digging Month, and encourage all Pennsylvanians to visit the Pennsylvania 811 website at www.pa1call.org for information about digging safely.
Thank you. Ms. Barton. Thanks, Anita. So with that, I will be looking for a motion to approve Proclamation 2024-03, designating April as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month in the Borough of Conshohocken.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda this evening is 2024 Community Education Award presentation. So I will ask Shauna to take over the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. So the Community Education Award is an annual program run by the Carton Council. The Carton Council got in touch with the county last year, and Veronica Harris, who's the recycling manager with Montgomery County, sent information to our Executive Director of Operations, who then charged our team with the task of going after this award. So this all started in 2009. All of the carton manufacturers realized that with the passing of the allowance that cartons can be recycled, the information wasn't getting out to people, and most people were throwing away items that are food cartons. So things like egg cartons, the takeout containers, all of that, that's actually not considered a carton. So cartons themselves are things like boxed water. You'll see on the screen boxed soup broth. This is a special paperboard made from plant-based material. So it's a very specific kind of item, but this item was far too often ending up in landfills and not being recycled properly. So because of that, they created a grant system where if you can prove that your municipality is educating the public about the ability to recycle cartons, then you are eligible to receive this award. Next. So the requirements were that we updated our website as well as putting out information at a public event. So we updated our website. Paul Gornowski, our communications manager, added a section underneath the recycling allowances on our website to list cartons and specify what food and beverage cartons are. And then at our Green Fest event, as well as at our Fun Fest event, our EAC put out recycling cards, which, sorry, I think it was a different slide. This is, it must not be in this deck. So we have recycling cards that were actually approved by you, council, a few years ago for use and distribution, and our Environmental Advisory Council now distributes those from their event table at all of our public-facing events. So that counted as our two separate initiatives to get the word out about cartons, and we have been granted a $2,000 reward to use for recycling expenses.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Any questions?
Any questions from council related to the initiative, how we're getting the initiative out?
It's still single stream recycling, so you just make sure you throw your cartons in your regular recycling.
Correct. Correct. It's single stream recycling, and the cartons, the material specifically, is something that you wouldn't want food residue or food waste on. I think that's something that we have a lot of questions about. Pizza boxes, things of that nature that tend to still have grease and food on them, can't go in with the single stream recycling. This food carton material can.
questions? All right, we don't need a vote on this. This was just a presentation of an award we got. So congratulations to Conshohocken for applying and achieving.
Thank you.
And it kind of goes hand in hand with the work that Shauna does on behalf of the borough with the EAC. And so thank you for what you do serving as the admin liaison to that commission in the borough.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, all of these programs and awards are on the backs of our administrative team, and we greatly appreciate all the work that you guys put into it to make us a successful borough. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda is a presentation on autism awareness. Chief Lennon and Chief Gunning will come to the podium and do our presentation. If everyone is not aware, April is Autism Awareness Month. Today it was Autism Awareness Day, so what a great day to come and do a presentation on how the Borough of Conshohocken incorporates people with disabilities into our everyday life. So thank you.
Okay, so hi, me again.
Oh, Shauna!
So you'll notice, and you'll get a closer look on the screens, that the two gentlemen behind me, our chief of police and our fire chief and fire marshal, are wearing blue badges. So these are our autism awareness badges for them to wear throughout the month of April. Our emergency management coordinator also received one. So that's part of this initiative. So just a few quick facts. Approximately 1 in 36 children are diagnosed with autism in the U.S. every year. Since the year 2000, this rate has increased by 312%. So we are recognizing this more and more. Now, the issue there is that autistic children are more likely to be seriously injured. They're more likely to suffer a fatal injury, and that's sometimes due to the fact that it's harder to get appropriate and safe help for someone who experiences autism and maybe is uncomfortable with somebody like the two men behind me approaching them in their home. So 1 in 5 young adults, by estimation, will interact with the police officer before the age of 21. So this is just a very real thing that needs to be expected and prepared for by first responders. So the gentleman behind me will go further into this, but what our first responders and our emergency management team has done is take the time to do the training to learn some of the key facts. It's important to stay calm when you're approaching an individual that may have autism. It is important not to use lights and sirens, anything that can be jarring, loud, bright, anything that would make anyone uncomfortable. You have to work with the family members of the individual and any caretakers that may be on site. Sometimes it is hard to get a person to want to leave the comfort of whatever space they're in. And in a situation where there's a fire, or there's something dangerous, this can happen where you have to approach the situation in a way that makes this person comfortable to come with you. We've done department-wide trainings. We've done trainings that have been open to the community as well, and we will continue to do so. Part of that is with the awareness that we try to create in the month of April, which is Autism Awareness Month. So,
So when we respond to a fire incident or a medical call, sometimes it's just explaining to the family member or the caretaker that some of the equipment we have makes noises. Gas detectors, air packs, thermal imaging cameras. So we try to go over that before we enter the house if we can. If it's not an emergency, we need to rush into the house. So when we go to the call or to the scene, maybe we show the person that it's going to make noises, but everything's safe. There's just to stay calm and just present it as just maybe not wear our gear either. Just be in plain clothes if we can. So that kind of de-escalates if the person's nervous or something.
So our police department has some families that have some autistic kids in their families, so this was personal to us in the police department. So our emergency management team brought in specialized training. We sought out a expert in the industry who actually created the first law enforcement specific autism awareness training. He came here and spoke and trained all of our officers and many of us in the borough also. So it was important for us to get training, and now our officers are all aware of how to approach this situation. And on top of that, we've joined the District Attorney and Chiefs of Police Blue Label program or Blue Envelope program. These are available at our police station and police stations throughout the county. What this does is the family can put specific information in here with contact numbers and information, and then the driver who has special needs can hand this to the police officer, and then police officers within the county know to look for this, and they can open the envelope and gain some more information or have some contacts if there's any special needs that need to happen while they're interacting with these folks. Is there any questions anyone has for us?
Do we have any programming or databases where if family members have children or young adults or even older adults who have autism and want to let our emergency services know that those folks reside at certain addresses as a heads up? Do we have anything like that in the Borough of Conshohocken?
They can, we don't have nothing specific about that, but they can reach out to Dave or I or anybody in the borough through email. We have, it's called a CAD, computer-aided dispatch system at the county. All the notes can be added into that, and when we go to the address, the notes will be given to us, so we know what we're going to.
Great, thank you, Tim. Any other questions from council? So the program does work, and I appreciate all that our emergency responders do for the program. I have had some home alarms go off in the past because of my child going outside, and the police are very aware of when the alarm goes off, the first thing they're looking for is my daughter around. It works, and I would encourage anyone in our community to reach out and let our first responders know so that they can be part of our family community that are helping us grow these folks into active members of our community. So thank you very much.
I'll actually add as well, it's great that the first responders are doing this. Our elementary school is actually very, very good at, my daughter's in 3rd grade, and she interacts with kids with autism regularly, and they encourage them to interact with them, and she loves it, and she talks about them, and she tells me about it, and it's so cool. So just as a community to broaden that scope is really nice from a first responders end, but the elementary school does a fantastic job of integrating those kids with special needs into the larger classroom. But thank you guys for what you do, and it's just adding to a really good community feel for autism awareness. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is under council business. We have no land use or public hearings this evening, correct? Okay. So under council business, our first item is to conduct an interview for a vacancy on the Marywood Park Commission. So at this time, if Jack Hassler could come up to the microphone or the podium, wherever you're comfortable. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jack. Thank you for having interest, and
yeah, and thank you all for taking the time to speak to me about it. So I've lived in Conshohocken now for 2 years, in West Conshohocken for a year before that. I've been a teacher for 5 to 10 years, depending on how you count side teaching while I was in graduate school. But education is really important to me. Getting involved in my community is really important to me. And so when I saw the call a week or two ago, looking for new commissioners to help out around Marywood Park and do more to build out the space, I thought it would be a perfect fit. There's also somewhat of a selfish reason. My wife and I welcomed our first daughter last summer, and so while she's still a little tiny for some of the park equipment and stuff like that, we walk her by there all the time, and we're going to be using the park quite a bit. So I think it's only fitting to give back a little bit too.
Congratulations.
What do you see happening with the house? The Marywood Park house?
Yeah, and I was looking into the history of it, and it's really incredible. I didn't realize it was so old, back to the 1850s. I mean, I know that it's used as a community meeting space for a couple of folks. I think the park looks amazing from its 2018 refurbishment, renovation. I don't know yet about, what funds are available to build it back out, but the more that we can make it a center for the community, it's obviously very close to the community center, but the more that we can make it a space for our community members, I would love to see this park as a whole used for more educational programming for students in the Conshohocken area, and the more that we could use the space, especially in the colder months when the rest of the park might be a little bit harder, to bring those opportunities in for our younger folk, I think it would be amazing.
Do you have any specific activities that you would like for teaching kids?
Yeah, so I think that the park does a really good set of events for some of our younger kids. I would teach mostly high schoolers right now, and a lot of them, they're going to the mall on the weekends, which is great. The mall is a great spot. But I think giving them a space to come, even just for an hour or two, see other kids their own age, and maybe, we can sneak in a little bit of education while they're not looking, right? Make the event something related to community engagement, recycling, civic engagement, safety and security around the borough, things like that. Maybe, theme the events in some way so that they walk out not really realizing that they were going to be educated, but there you go. Snuck it in.
Thank you.
Can you, thank you very much for putting your hand up and volunteering. Could you talk about your experience? I believe you have a PhD in research, right? Do you think you can bring any of that to help raise money, or any of the factors that I'm not thinking of? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so my PhD has always been focused towards teaching, but technically it was in political science and quantitative methods. So I'm really deep into statistics and quantitative work. I mostly teach statistics and computer science. So I've done a whole bunch of surveying in the past, know exactly how to build out a survey and analyze the results and collect that data in the cheapest way possible, which is always a nice little plus. So as I think I said in my letter, I would love to do a little bit more to look at exactly who's using the park, when they're using the park, why they're using the park, and obviously, families are using the park to play, but also, just even posting up and collecting data on how many people we see come through on a given day, on a given Saturday, given Wednesday, that type of thing. Taking a look at, all the mentions of Marywood Park on social media, websites, all that sort of thing, just when looking through, it's got a great presence out there. You can gather all that stuff together pretty easily, write some short programs that gather mentions, things like that. And then you can just take a look at the patterns. And I don't know enough yet to know what those patterns are going to be or how we might be able to use them. But I imagine that it will create opportunities to know more about how the park is used.
Well, it's great to have another qualified Ward 1 volunteer. So thank you.
Yeah, I sit on the Marywood Park Commission with Anita, and looking at your resume, no offense, guys, but you will definitely be the smartest person on that commission.
No offense.
But yeah, a lot of the challenges we face with it is that the house is a very historic. It's historic in Conshohocken, but the funds are not there to really make it look the way it should. That is the challenge. Do you have any experience in fundraising or driving initiatives like that kind of dovetail with that? Because a lot of what the challenge is we talk about how important it is, but it doesn't really look important right now. It kind of looks like something that we're just kind of limping along, right? Any experience or relevant kind of factors that you might be able to contribute in that?
Yeah, so my work with the Phelps School in Malvern, I came in as a teacher and just kept doing admin work, and then I wound up talking to a lot of alumni and donors, And it's amazing how many people will give you money when you ask them for it. So a lot of it is just getting on the phone. A lot of people won't, right? But a lot of people will. And a lot of it is just getting on the phone, going out, meeting people. And I know that there are a lot of people that the Marywood Park is very important to them because I see the same faces every Saturday morning and Sunday morning when we're walking by there. And a lot of the same folks on the nicer days when we're walking by in the afternoons. So a lot of it is just sort of putting it out there to folks, maybe doing some donation drives for the house. I need to learn more about sort of what the legalities of all that are and all that, right? The Phelps campus out in Malvern is quite old. A lot of the buildings are quite old. Most of them were built before 1950, which is not quite as old as the Marywood Park House. But I have some experience with trying to make a little bit go a long way in terms of money for side renovations, things like that. You know, there's limits to what DIY can get you, but it can certainly spruce a place up and start a trend, right? If you can show success with smaller projects, people are more likely to be interested in supporting, donating, and helping you fundraise for larger projects. So I should note, I don't know a bunch about what the house needs, so I'm mostly just spitballing. But I'd love to learn more and do my part.
Yes, sir. Awesome.
Great. Any other questions from council? No. Well, thank you for your interest. We appreciate learning about you, and there's no vote this evening, but we'll let you know.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. All right. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving a memorandum of understanding between the Borough of Conshohocken and Conshohocken Fire Company Number 2 regarding the transfer of ownership of the current fire station to the borough. Last council meeting, we had a small presentation on the Memorandum of Understanding. Did council receive any questions or have any questions before we make a motion to approve? All right, hearing no questions or no feedback, do I have a motion to approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the Borough of Conshohocken and Conshohocken Fire Company Number 2 regarding the transfer of ownership of the current fire station to the Borough of Conshohocken?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Number 2, for all the work that you put into it. I think that the project coming up is very exciting, and we know it means a lot to the community to have such a dedicated volunteer fire company under your leadership, so thank you. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving Resolution 2025-08, authorizing the sale or donation of a fire truck. So last meeting, we also got a presentation of one of the smaller local community in Pennsylvania who were in need of a fire truck. The presentation was that we would be looking to authorize the donation / dollar sale of the fire truck. So are there any questions or concerns related to that discussion? Hearing no questions or concerns, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-08? And that would be authorizing the sale and donation of a fire truck to Rangers Hose Company for $1.
I'll make that motion.
Please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving Resolution 2025-09, establishing temporary traffic and parking regulations in the borough. So what we're looking for is a motion to approve the resolution that would establish temporary traffic and parking regulations, specifically 2 15-minute to-go parking spaces on West 2nd Avenue, as well as a stop sign on West 2nd Avenue and Forest Street.
I think East 2nd Avenue, this temporary, the
yes.
two goes.
Sorry, East 2nd Avenue. That was my fault.
That's my fault.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, concerns, comments? All right. So with no questions, concerns, or comments, do I have a motion to approve the resolution 2025-09 that will establish the temporary traffic and parking regulations of 2 15-minute parking to-go spaces on East 2nd Avenue and a stop sign at East 2nd Avenue and Forest?
West Second.
I'm sorry, West 2nd and Forest. I did it again.
I'm sorry, it's West Second.
West Second.
Is correct.
Parking is East Second, though.
Parking is east,
Correct.
the stop sign is west.
Right.
Just clarifying it before.
Right.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
East and West Second.
East and West. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Throwing me off here. All right. Next item on the agenda falls under our Manager Matter section, and we will be looking to discuss bids received for our public space trash receptacles. So staff.
Yes.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the tabulated results and what your
Sure.
recommendations are for the public space trash receptacles?
Yes, so this was an approved capital budget item in the 2025 budget. We did put out an RFP because of the amount of money that we were estimating the cost of the trash receptacles would be. We did have a member of our operations team in to discuss the bid and request the council authorize the RFP. That was advertised on February 20th. We received 3 bids. We have reviewed the bids. We are recommending awarding the bid to Big Belly. They were the lowest responsible bidder, but the proposal provided the highest number of compactor units and included installation costs. There's no ongoing software cost for the system, and they also submitted the certificate of insurance was required per the RFP. This entity does provide this same type of trash receptacle to other municipalities in our area, and they provided the necessary references. The bid that was received is within the budget that council approved for 2025, and therefore, based off our budget conversation in September of 2024 in preparation for 2025, we do recommend moving forward with awarding to Big Belly.
Does council have any questions related to the process of the bidding or the trash receptacles that Big Belly is actually recommending?
What's the turnaround time?
Do we have an estimate once awarded?
I think once awarded and ordered, it's 4 to 6 weeks for delivery and installation.
And are they all going on Fayette Street? Is that the plan? Okay.
Are they like secured?
Are they open or can?
No, are they secured like there? These are expensive trash cans. So like,
On concrete.
yeah, they're okay.
Part of the installation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Concrete, and then closed structure that compacts.
So we won't have necessarily overflowing trash receptacles on Fayette Street.
Some of the problem areas, yes, that should be eliminated.
Any other questions? There's no vote on this evening, so we'll be voting on this in April, at our next April voting meeting. Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is discussion on the bids that were received for the replacement of the windows at the A field. So, Steph, I think this was
Yes.
also a budget item for 2025?
Yes, this was also an approved budget item for 2025. We did advertise the RFP after discussing and requesting authorization to advertise with council on February 21st. We received 3 bids. Those bids have been reviewed. We're recommending awarding the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, and that is Joseph Del Buono. The bid tabulation results were attached, so the project was budgeted at $35,000, and the bid that came in from Del Buono was $30,500. So it's actually under the budget allocated for the project, barring any unforeseen circumstances with that older building. So there's some wiggle room there if we need it. But the recommendation this evening would be to award the contract, and that will go on your voting meeting agenda for consideration.
questions related to the windows on the A field building? Okay, we'll see it then on the agenda in April. Thank you.
Great.
Next item on the agenda this evening is a discussion on appointing Michael Miller of Eckerd Siemens as our special counsel to amend the police civil service regulations and generate a fire civil service regulation. Steph, do you want to talk to us a little bit about Michael Miller?
Sure. This is another initiative that administration had set for the 2025 fiscal year. Specifically, Chief Lennon in the police department is currently undergoing a full policy review of the police department, so that is ongoing and extensive. In addition, for the police department, it's also a contract negotiation year, and civil service, based off the efficiency and expediency that Chief Lennon has showed in terms of utilizing civil service and the hiring process, we are utilizing them to a greater extent. And so the last time the civil service regulations for the police department had been amended was 10 years ago, 2014, so a little bit over 10 years. But so we do want to look at amending them to make sure that the current police civil service regulations meet applicable laws. And therefore, that review will take place. In addition, we have met the threshold from a fire perspective, full-time firefighter perspective, in terms of needing civil service in order to hire any additional full-time members. And therefore, we are seeking out an expert. So Michael Miller currently, for the past 15 years, in fact, has been retained by PSAB, so the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs, as their civil service expert. He has been the sole provider for civil service training and regulations. And so we had an opportunity to engage with Mr. Miller, and we believe, given the fact that we need to do both of these at the same time, bringing in this individual with that level of expertise in this area will set us up for the next 10 years in terms of the growth we are expecting from a borough perspective in terms of both of our police and our fire departments. And so we have an engagement letter. He has provided a blended rate, which is specific for his municipal clients. And we would like Borough Council to allow administration to engage him and get this process started. We will be focusing first on the fire portion of this because that is time sensitive. We do have budgeted in 2025 the addition of the full-time firefighter position, and so these civil service regs and the testing requirements need to be completed and the commission be formed in order for us to process that hire. So we have indicated to Mr. Miller that that is the priority out of the gate, and the police civil service regs will be updated and revised throughout the year with the goal of it being complete by the end of the year.
Prior to our contract negotiation?
They can be run simultaneously. Mhm. But if there are specifications that are being done in the negotiations that affect civil service, they will be built in.
Got it. Any other questions about fire or police civil service and having an expert help us get to the regs that are required? Okay. Doesn't look like there's a vote on this. You're just
No,
gonna
we
do some
yes,
rework?
we're adding it for discussion. Therefore, if there's any input, we will accept it over the next 2 weeks, and it'll be back on the voting agenda.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the RFP for bond counsel and financial advisor services related to our public safety services facility.
Yes, so earlier this evening, we just had an executed MOU, so thank you very much to both council and to Fire Company Number 2. It's very exciting. We have released the RFP for architectural services as it pertains to the design and scope concept for the building, the structure itself. That's actively being advertised. I can tell you that there's a lot of interest in that RFP. So we're fielding questions and interest inquiries on a daily basis. leading up to the due date for that RFP. In the meantime, we have drafted and prepared the next step in this public safety services facility process, which, while the architect is designing the building itself and the costs that are associated with that project, we are recommending that we release RFP for bond counsel and financial advisory services that are related to the public safety services facility. So in order to complete the actual construction of the project, we will be looking at taking on additional debt. There's multiple options that are available for the borough to consider based off of our current budget, our assets, and our borrowing capability. So we will be charging the financial advisory service that is selected, the firm, along with our bond counsel, to lay out different scenarios at what is available to you as a council and how to fund this initiative. We will request that they look at your full operating budget, your capital reserves, and your capital assets to determine, and your current debt service, to determine what your best options are. And there may be evolving options that are available to you, but again, this individual along with your bond counsel. So if you were to take out additional general obligation notes or bonds, whatever that may look like, you'd have bond counsel that would do all the legalities of that process. They are charged in the RFP to bring in with them a financial advisor that will then take your options that are available from a municipal perspective and plug into how that affects basically the rest of your finances and your budget. And we think that that will provide you and the public, because this is a pivotal project for this borough. It's going to be, you've heard us say before, a 100-year project. Our first responders were here in front of you requesting this project. And they are engaged in the success of this project, which has been fantastic from our end. So this is, again, it's the next step. You have all the pieces of the puzzle that are coming together. This is that financial piece. How are you going to pay for it? What are your options that are available to you? What's the impact on your bottom line and the borough as a whole? Not just for today, but for the future. And then serve as a partner along the way, because as we saw with this building, markets change, opportunities present themselves, and it is our responsibility to make sure we take advantage of those opportunities so that we are being as fiscally responsible for the borough as we possibly can.
So Steph, when we think about the design of the building in respect to what then our financial advisors tell us that may be available,
Yep.
how does that look from kind of rolling that out? Are we having a blank check where people, administration, council, are just making decisions, oh, let's go for it? Like, what does that process look like for the Borough of Conshohocken?
So we are running these two RFPs basically almost simultaneously on purpose, because the idea is that you're going to develop a team to bring this project to fruition. So you're going to have your in-house engineer, who's going to be your basically land development site developer, who's going to be charged with working directly with your architect, who's going to be developing the building itself and all the mechanicals and structurals, et cetera, along with the proposed costs to build what the borough is envisioning it wants to have. While you have your professionals working on that aspect, you're going to have your first responders telling this architect what they need in order to operate efficiently out of this facility. They have I can tell you right now, they have their lists. They know what they want, which is great. And as costs are calculated through the architect and the necessities are included, then we will get to wish lists in terms of what we may want in this facility, not just for the short term, but for the long term.
So what I hear you saying is there will be an evaluation of the necessities based on the emergency responder feedback that they need to operate their
Correct.
emergency
Yep.
response. There will be regulatory, so you can't just build a barn and throw people in a barn, right? There's regulatory requirements nowadays for
And
these
code
types-
requirements that we
and code
have to meet.
requirements, okay.
ADA requirements, et cetera.
So all of that will be the priority of how we figure out the cost of it. And then when we hit priority, then we can look at what are the niceties for the Borough of Conshohocken and talk about why it would be nice to have that as the Borough of Conshohocken.
Yes, we are mindful of the fact that that property is located at the entrance of the borough. And so there is also an emphasis on our first responders are such a pivotal part of this community that we're not only trying to give them the facility that they need to continue to provide the very important service that they do to the community, but also allow them to grow. This facility is basically giving them the option to continue to grow. We are positioned where we are very lucky that we have a fire chief who has found the correct calculation in how to not only retain but attract volunteer firefighters. And we believe that this facility will allow him to continue to do that. I think Monday night we had an incident in the borough, and I think our emergency management coordinator said it best, that the response that we received Monday night in order to handle a very, what could have been difficult situation was because of the relationships and the mutual aid that our fire chief has made pivotal to the success of the fire company. And that goes across the board with our 3 emergency management gentlemen that are sitting in the back row. But it means something, and this facility is going to mean something. So yes, our main responsibility is to, what do we need to operate? Get the doors open and get them in the new facility. But there also is an importance to it fitting in with the borough community, and it's serving as a pivotal symbol of the fact that the borough has really made emergency services important to allow this community to thrive. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So there's no vote on the bond council at this point. We'll see that on our April agenda.
And that will be on your voting agenda, and if approved for advertising, you will get advertised that next day.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda this evening is to consider approving change order number 1 for the traffic signal modernization project along East and West Elm Streets. So what I'm looking for is a motion to approve the change order number 1 for the modernization project along East and West Elm Street. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm just going to lay out some financials so everyone is aware. So the grant that we received from PennDOT was in the amount of 1.5 million. I'm just going to round 1.5 million. When we approved this project, the low bid actually came in over budget at 1.9 million. So Borough Council did, through your reserves, approve roughly $450,000 to be utilized out of your reserves to actually move forward with this very important project along Elm. Our traffic engineer was able to work with the Lennon Electric Corporation who's doing the work and was able to get a change order, which you're approving tonight, which decreased that $450,000 by almost $290,000. So a huge thank you to Brian. I do believe there may be an additional change order as it relates to some of the curb ramps, which may, decrease some of that change order. But even if it's slightly, you're still looking at a huge cost savings, thanks to his work directly with PennDOT and Lennon Corporation. So he's not here this evening, but he definitely deserves a thank you for that. So you'll get this project. You got a $1.5 million grant. We thought we were going to have to make up a bigger difference between the grant and our budget, and Brian came through with this change order. So front of you for consideration for approval.
And this is that timing of those lights, so this is part of that project?
It's all
where
the
we get
new
it.
lights along Elm that we did have someone here last meeting concerned about the timing and stuff. And so, yes, they are. The project itself will be done mid to end of May, so we are getting there. And you can see them, they're out there every day working at each of the intersections. So we do ask for the community's patience for a few more weeks as they break down. All the new is up and functioning, but the old still needs to be removed, and there's some ADA ramps that need to be completed. So there's a few extra steps, few last-minute steps, but we're getting there.
Any other questions related to that? Okay, hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to approve the change order number 1 for the traffic signal modernization project along East and West Elm Street?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider approving payment application number 3 for the traffic signal modernization project along East and West Elm Streets. So the motion would include East Elm Street and Harry at $3,195.03, West Elm and Caldwell at $144,211.51, West Elm and Maple at $136,586.04, and West Elm and Oak at $118,857.97. Looking for a motion to approve the payment application.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, under department matters, looks like we have nothing this evening under department matters. Mr. Peters, anything under legal matters this evening?
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing under legal matters. So that brings us to anything under council and mayor matters that we need to discuss. And before we go to Yaniv, do we want to do any public comment now? Anyone have any public comment related to either the agenda items or anything going on in the borough that you'd like to speak to? Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. Sitting on that side of the fence many years ago, very professional, very, very well done meeting, and your borough manager is fantastic. I believe you're very lucky to have her. She's very well spoken, did a very good job tonight.
Thank you.
So I congratulate you. Great to be involved in this again. So thank you for letting that.
Thank you for that feedback. Appreciate it. Anyone else have any public comment? Come on up.
Yeah, I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about, but now that you brought emergency services up, I'll just talk about my section of town. Okay, when I moved in, there was six houses on our block.
Remind me where you are.
Second and Wood.
Thank you.
All right, across from Hammers.
Gotcha.
Across from Sabia. And then the time that I've been there, there's probably 50 houses. So my concerns are twofold. One, I really have no idea who my neighbors are, so I don't know if there's a lot of rentals on the street because I don't know half the people half the time. My second concern is a safety issue. If we ever have any kind of fire down there, if it's in your section, I don't know how the fire truck is going to get in. I don't know how the public is going to get out. And if the borough continues to grow and continually build more, I don't know if the problem is going to be harder for the emergency services, because when the fire truck came down Christmas time, going down in behind the house, in between the condos, they had a heck of a time getting the pickup truck down there, the fire truck down there. Even sometimes when the trash truck tries to go down to empty their trash, they have an issue getting in and out. So if there is ever a catastrophe, or I mean, I go back to when Jack Fritz had a fire. We couldn't get out. They blocked off the streets. There's no way for us to get out. So if anything ever happens on that street, I don't know what can be done. And I don't know if it's only our section or if there's other sections in the borough that are running into the same kind of problem.
Do we have a microphone back there?
Yeah, I was going to say, do we want our
Tim, can you-
fire and emergency management to talk about it? I think we are in a different place than we were years ago from the perspective of planning for those types of events. So,
So I can speak on this. A couple years ago, we had a working house fire.
On that, Wood Street.
On Wood Street,
The house
yeah.
burns to the-
So-
Yes.
As buildings are built and designed, they're designed with sprinkler systems, so everything across the street from you has a sprinkler system in the house. Anything 3 or more houses are built with sprinkler systems in residential. Fire hydrants are placed by code as well, so there's plenty of fire hydrants. Your circles at the dead end of each block of West First Avenue and the dead end of Wood Street are designed to be able to move fire apparatus around in there. And if there's evacuations that we have to come up with, we can always take you out through the back of the apartments on West 3rd Avenue and get you on the other side of Maple Street.
No. When you say
The condos, that's
Yeah,
it.
how do we get through on the condos?
So you can go down the alleyway and go through the backyard. We can always cut fences, we can
I'm
evacuate
gonna say,
you
if
that
there's a
way.
fence there, there's a wall there.
Or we can open all that up to get you out.
Tim, how many calls did the fire company run last year alone?
Fire company ran 808 fire calls last year.
And I know you probably don't know off the top of your head, but specific to Ward 1 and Mr. Mazzichetti's area, are there?
We do not go down there often.
Okay. In terms of any new facilities that are built, we do have a system, correct, that buildings are put into?
We do, and that's the CAD system, and also we have a pre-planned system that we do through the borough. So all that stuff as it's constructed is all looked at through our pre-planned system.
Oh, I'm not questioning how you prepare.
Okay.
I'm just worried about, for heaven forbid, if there ever is an emergency.
Okay.
But when you say you'd get us through, but that would take time.
It does.
You're first off, you have to deal with whatever the situation is first.
Yeah.
Because it would become secondary.
Well, no, not necessarily. That's why there's mutual aid fire companies. Mutual aid fire companies, so I can put a group to attack a house fire or any kind of emergency situation. And then I have backup fire departments coming in that can automatically start the evacuation if we have to. So it works hand in hand. It's just not, well, that's second, we'll deal with that. It's all in a mutual aid plan.
How many,
So
how many backup,
Tim, maybe
how
this
many
will help
companies did you
answer
have
what
Monday night? Yeah.
I think your concern is. Can you talk a little bit about, we stood up an emergency command center for those types of situations. So it's not like it's just the fire department that is trying to figure out how to move all these people in an emergency in certain areas of the borough. Do you want to talk a little bit
Yep.
about how you all work together?
So we would open up an EOC, the Emergency Operations Center here. We have a command post at the fire scene or any kind of emergency situation. So we would come up with a system to evacuate people through the EOC and the command, so it's organized. So whatever we have to do to get you out of where you need to go, we can also take you up to the CBC club and have a staging area up there for them and bring tents or whatever we need, or open the building up and we can go in there until the situation is under control or resolved.
How many mutual aid departments were on site Monday night for the evacuation?
10.
So we had the Conshohocken Fire Department, the Conshohocken Police Department, the Emergency Management Team, the L&I team, and then 10 mutual aid.
Yep, you had Plymouth Township, all of Plymouth Township, all of White Marsh Township, Lower Murray Township, Upper Murray Township.
I was driving down Fayette at the time, and the speed at which they actually got there and were was, it was insane, because I was getting out and I heard the sirens, and the speed at which there were multiple fire trucks there that were not even, they weren't borough fire. It was stunning. I was like, how did they get here this fast? Like, because I heard sirens and then I heard more sirens. I drove past within 5 minutes. There was like 3 or 4 trucks there.
So
It was impressive.
So I think what I would like to get across is we've got a team of people that are thinking about these things, working together collaboratively to figure out how to move the emergency and address the emergency in a way that is systematic, organized, and very succinct. They practice that. So they pull their teams together and practice different types of events. I think what you're concerned with is your area, and when our community points out a concern, I think we could probably take a look at that area to make sure that we have a plan that would address those things that you bring up. So I think that's
When,
appropriate.
it's like 20 years ago when Jack Francis fire, we did bring it up, and we were told, yes and no, this could do this,
Sure.
could do that. But there is only one way to egress, and that's out Wood and up Third. So now if there's a fire on the corner of Third or the corner of Second, everything's then blocked.
So I think what you heard was we will
Yeah, well,
move
no,
mountains to be able to do that.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but what I'm saying is it's just compounding the problem
Sure.
when it gets as congested as it's becoming.
Sure.
I mean, that's all.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
All right.
So thank you.
I could tell you our team will address it and look at it.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? All right, then we will go to the mayor and his pictures and all the great things he's done in the last couple weeks.
All right, thank you, Tina. I was invited to speak to 5 classrooms at Colonial Elementary a couple weeks ago, really talking about local government and demystifying, I think, a little bit from what they probably see in the news a lot from the federal level, and sort of talk more about what we talked about tonight, approving stop signs and new emergency service buildings and things that they can really connect with. They had really great questions. They were absolutely shocked to know I was not the boss of council, so I'd be happy to know we had that discussion. So a big thank you to all of them. They were doing a unit on local government, so it was great to be a part of that. So thank you to all the students and teachers for inviting me. And then we had family yoga at the community center a couple weeks ago. So Thomas went in and took over. It was put on by Yoga Home. It was really, really cute. So thank you to Yoga Home and to Lauren for doing all the great events that she does. It was actually a cold day, so it was nice to have an activity to do with Thomas. And then probably the biggest news, we had a visit from the Philly Fanatic last Friday. The Conshohocken Baseball and Softball League are promoting their Friday night games, and this was like the kickoff. And they introduced, you can see it up in the upper right corner, their new mascot curveball. So the Fanatic went around with him, and it was great. It was great to see all the families there. And the league, from what I hear, is starting to now steal back a lot of participants that we lost to other leagues. So we are starting to see some real growth in the Conshohocken League, which is amazing. And then finally, I do want to just highlight the really astounding communication the last couple weeks from our police department and from Chief Lennon. We've had a number of targeted enforcements and arrests and cases solved, and the police department's been really good about putting information out to the public. So I think it's really gone a long way to assuring folks that our department's really hard at work and doing what they do. So thank you, Chief, for spearheading that. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Ralph, anything tonight?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you.
Stace?
I'm good, thank you.
Nothing? Anita?
Nothing.
Adrian? Nothing. Alan?
Yes, I'll be quick, though. Excuse me. I wanted to say a big thank you to our emergency services group, emergency management team, fire, police. What happened at Marshall Lee Towers on Monday could have been a big, big issue, and not many people even know about it in the community because of how it was managed. by our groups. I know that we've already gotten letters from Montgomery County Housing Authority thanking us. I shouldn't say, I'm going to say us, but thanking you and everything you've done. And it was a big deal, and everyone stayed safe, and it was great work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, I have nothing this evening, so I will call meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining.